Red Bull's domination of the F1 world continued with Max completely unstoppable in Monaco. Still, it did not all go to plan for Red Bull, with Sergio Perez sitting outside of the points. And to make matters even worse, the mystery surrounding the flaw of the RB19, the most dominant car in F1, was destroyed. Want to know what the Red Bull team principal had to say about the debacle, and will the other teams really be able to use this to their advantage? Stick around to find out, and stick around to the end to find out if Toto thinks the FIA should slow down Red Bull. Trust me, it's not what you think it'll be. It's no hidden secret that the performance of an F1 car is derived from its flaw, with engineers estimating as much as 60% of car performance is now generated by the largely hidden aerodynamic features. And this year, the RB19 has had aerodynamicists around the F1 paddock scratching their heads, as no one can quite figure out how the RB19 is able to generate so much downforce. Well, everyone except Adrian Newey, with the Aero Wizard smiling all the way to the title. But the Aero Wizard would have been bitterly disappointed with the debacle with what happened in Monaco, with essentially Red Bull's entire flaw being shown to the world. The same fate befell Mercedes, with Toto not very happy about the exposure of Mercedes' flaw, not exactly sure why, but hey, guess that's just Toto. The Mercedes team principal, Wolff, joked that renowned circus company Cirque du Soleil must have been responsible for the recovery of Hamilton's heavily updated car. Well, whoever performed the crane has probably worked for Cirque du Soleil, Wolff said. Honestly, that I don't even comprehend. The car was on the road. You could have put it on a truck. You're showcasing a car to everyone in the world. That was suboptimum for us, to say the least. The Austrian did also have something to say about Red Bull's car being hoisted into the air. Checo's car was the same thing. You see, I didn't see that. So they're all from Cirque du Soleil, Wolff added. Now, did Toto really not see Perez's car being hoisted into the air? Probably not, but we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. The exposure of the Red Bull's flaw will be of interest to the whole F1 paddock, but in particular interest to Mercedes, who themselves have had a decent Monaco GP but are still miles behind the Red Bull. With the W14 going under some serious upgrades, the exposure of the flaw could come at an opportune moment, with Andrew Shovlin particularly excited about it. I suspect they're probably more annoyed at their car being left in the sky than we would be about ours. With these regulations, the most important bit of the car is the bit you don't normally get to see. The teams will be all over these kinds of photographs. Monaco is a good opportunity to get that kind of shot, Shovlin told Autosport. I'm not sure it's a great move when your trackside engineer's not confident about the flaw of your car, but we can really agree with Shovlin, because even though the same fate happened to the W14, people probably weren't as interested, as the Silver Arrows are not exactly lighting up the track, with Ted Kravitz calling the Mercedes flaw prehistoric. Thanks to Perez, the whole of F1 has seen the fabled Red Bull flaw. See for yourself, it is a thing of wonder and beauty, especially when you compare it to the flaw of the Mercedes and the Ferrari, which we also saw up on cranes. They look prehistoric, Kravitz told Sky Sports. And he didn't stop there, with the Sky Sports presenter clearly impressed with the RB19's flaw. I tell you, when you look at these pictures, compare them to the Mercedes and the Ferrari, it is no wonder that the RB19 is so good. They will hate it, of course, but hey, blame Perez, not our fault that we can see, Kravitz continued. Ted was clearly excited about it, but it wasn't only Mercedes and Ted, but Aston Martin was excited as well. Aston Martin also admitted interest in Red Bull's wooden plank, a part that every F1 car uses on its floor. You learn a lot from just even how the plank is wearing, Aston Martin Performance Director Tom McCullough said. You learn from what's touching. There's a lot of very excited aerodynamicists up and down the pit lane looking at all of that. Such is the excitement of the world finally seeing the RB19's flaw that even Hamilton has the pictures saved on his phone that he will be zooming in on. He was only joking, but clearly the F1 world is excited. And clearly Toto was not happy with what happened to the W14, but what does his rival and probably nemesis Horner think about his secret weapon being exposed? Well, he wasn't as angry as you would think. It has been a bit of a show and tell from all the teams. Everybody's been up in the air at some point. It's the same for everyone. And insisting there was no issue with the exposure, Horner added, "It is very rude to look up people's skirts." Such was his calm demeanor that he was pretty sure the other teams already had his car's design. Not sure about this one, Horner, as most teams are incredibly excited about the Red Bull being hoisted up into the air, but nonetheless, he had this to say further about the whole incident. "I think pictures get taken in and around the paddock. They arrive in vans and work on the cars with shutters up. Each team will be employing spy photographers to get pictures of the cars when they're in parts and pieces. That's common practice, so I wouldn't have thought it's the first time a picture of the floor. It is probably the first time it has been suspended from a crane, but I think all teams are always striving for that intelligence. And so it's great news for F1 racing. The Red Bull flaw has been exposed, so now all the teams will copy it, and the teams will close the gap on the RB19, and we will finally have a competitive championship. Well, not quite. Those that have been around the sport or even new fans will know that this is not how F1 works, because essentially the car has been designed in a specific way, and just adding the same flaw doesn't mean instant success. Look at Mercedes. They can't just put the side pods onto the W14 and suddenly win the championship. It's way more complicated than that. But what it does allow for the teams to do is look at integrating the RB19's flaw into their current car. But F1 is an evolving sport, and trust me, Red Bull will have some clever tricks up their sleeves to ensure that the flaw doesn't just stay the same, but gets better with time. There is also the tiny issue that the photo provided of the RB19 is 2D and doesn't give much of a view of the flaw. Williams' head of vehicle performance, Dave Robson, also downplayed the usefulness of the images. It's so complex that on a 2D photo, because of the way the light is, it's so curved, you can't figure any of it out. I guess it's just coincidental they do it all like that, because that's how they get the downforce. But it doesn't half make it difficult to copy, Robson explained. Alright, fine, so let's say that the teams do manage to copy it and get it right. It would be extremely costly to get it to work. They would most likely need to change significant parts of their car. This would be extremely expensive, and there is the added factor of the F1 cost cap, set at $135 million for 2023 to take into consideration. It's also worth noting that the Red Bull's flaw was exposed at last year's Monaco GP, and the gap was closed slightly, but the RB18 was still wholly dominant. So, will Mercedes and Ferrari be able to copy the RB19? The most obvious answer is yes, but does it mean that will make them faster? Well, that is debatable and relies on a number of factors. However, there is a straightforward answer to slowing down the Red Bull, and that is F1 and the FIA stepping in to create new rules and regulations that would slow down the Red Bull. Still, Wolff, who was in charge of the Mercedes domination from 2014 to 21, winning 8 consecutive constructors and 7 drivers' championships, does not believe that this is the best way to catch the runaway Red Bull. F1 is a meritocracy, said the Mercedes team principal. It's sport, whether it is good for the show or not. Obviously, a strong fight between 10 drivers, or at least 2, is much better for all of us, but it's not happening. That is why you have to just accept that and work to get back there, said Toto. He went on to acknowledge that the Red Bull team had done a great job, and that all Mercedes could do was pull together and do a better job. They have just done a good job, he added. We just need to do a better job. We need to catch up, find intelligent solutions, hope that our learning slope, our development slope, is steeper than theirs, and eventually fight for this again. And Wolff dismissed suggestions that Red Bull's superiority should be addressed by F1 by potentially offering in-season advantages such as additional testing to other teams, but in doing so could not resist making passing reference to Red Bull breaking the budget cap in 2022. If we start putting in a balance of performance, we will ruin this sport, he said. The best driver in the best car spending the same amount of money should win the championship, and if you break the rules in either, you should be heavily penalized, but only then, not for doing a good job.